Oilers, you got a great offense with Connor McDavid. So I have them sweeping them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you heard my point. The San Francisco Giants have 3 more in the 2010s than the Rangers have in their entire history. So, yeah.
It's hard to get back and to get back-to-back wins, and I don't see the Lightning doing it here, so I have them losing to the Hurricanes in 6.
We don't talk about the 2010s because the 2010s had the Astros, and if the Astros didn't happen, the Yankees would have won in 2017 with the Dodgers.
He was close to Frank Reich, and they want Frank Reich back, so that's what they got. It's their discount Frank Reich.
Kaprizov and the rest of this crew, Jordan Greenway, who doesn't get enough props. He definitely is somebody who needs to be mentioned more.
Hi, this is Julie Dobbs. You're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. We're getting close to the season, so you know what that means. Stanley Cup or bust. And the man that is on the eve of dropping his dream prediction, Austin. You don't have to say it yet.
Yes, you keep hinting at it. I love that you keep hinting at it. It eventually will be mentioned as it is important. But first, we have to get through our Stanley Cup or bust. These are our group predictions, not necessarily predictions, our group thoughts. That's why they are by both of us. We have 5. Sometimes we have 4. Sometimes we have 5. I think around that range is solid. And these are, again, teams that have to make the Stanley Cup to have a successful season. If they don't, their season is busted. Kevin, who do you want to start with?
Yeah, and this is based on the Penguins who missed the playoffs last year, but because of what they did in the offseason and the age of Crosby, they've put this pedigree on themselves. And we've had them on this list. And this usually pertains to past success. And a long time ago, the Penguins had incredible success at the Stanley Cup level. But they keep trying to go back there. And I think with the Karlsson trade, they have to be on this list.
Yeah, Crosby's not getting any younger. Malkin's not getting any younger. Chris Letang's not getting any younger. This is it. And you don't trade for Karlsson to not make the Stanley Cup. Kyle Dubas wants to prove that he did not deserve to be fired from the Maple Leafs. And I think that they're going all in. You cannot make that trade and say that they're not trying to win this next season. Karlsson has a lot of time left on this deal. He's still under contract with them until 2027. He'll be 33 this next year. He was the best defensive or the best defenseman, but obviously not the best defender. But he was remarkable last season. No one's really put up the point totals that he did last year in any time recently by a defenseman. And their offense should be amazing. 100-point season for a defenseman is remarkable. And this is going to be a huge year for them in Stanley Cup or bust.
Yeah, I think that's why they're on this list. And it's a great way to start this list. Next, we go to the Edmonton Oilers. And they were in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, and they got swept. But this year they lost to the Stanley Cup champion. They have actually lost to the Stanley Cup champion the past 2 years. And when you have McDavid, and just they're always making moves. They were talking about they traded for Ekholm. They have Stuart Skinner, who struggled in the playoffs. But I think you've had playoff success, and you have the best player in hockey right now. I think you have to be thinking about the Stanley Cup realistically and considering the season a bust if you don't make it.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you have the 2 best forwards in the sport, probably, there's arguments for other guys being better than Draisaitl, but Draisaitl is amazing. You have to be able to do great things in the playoffs. And the fact that they have yet to make a cup, even yet to win a game in the conference final level since they've drafted both of those guys, it's concerning. And you're not going to want those guys getting mad or disappointed or thinking about leaving, because this really is the best chance you're going to get. This is the Trout and Ohtani of hockey. And while they still have made the playoffs, obviously, you have to have success. You have to win championships. At least make the Stanley Cup now to get used to it. Or there's going to be a lot of talk about either McDavid or Draisaitl trying to leave.
Yeah, I love that comp. And this team, this management is doing everything they can, but you got to get it. You got to get to it, and it's whatever cost. And all these teams, we expect to make moves at the deadline to upgrade their team somehow, some way. Some may be more drastic than others, and we could see the Penguins and Oilers do that. Penguins took a drastic measure with Carlson, but now let's go to a Hurricanes team that really has done well in the playoffs, been consistent, but they just can't quite get over the hump of getting to the Stanley Cup,
They can't
and
even
they
win.
haven't really made a move.
That's true. Besides trading for Brent Burns last year, which I do
That's
think
true.
was significant. But they haven't even won a conference final game, even though they made it multiple times, which I find hilarious. But they've been swept twice in the conference finals in the last 5 years, and they got to make moves if they're going to get better. But they've been top of their division multiple times. Their players are getting older. You're going to have to sign the young guys to new contracts. Burns and Stahl, like I said, aren't getting any younger. So you do have to wonder how this team's going to be oriented in the future if they do not make a Stanley Cup final appearance soon.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And now we move on to, we've done 3. We're at our 4th team, Florida, who was just in the Stanley Cup, but like you were talking about, I'll let you talk about it, and then I'll add in the stuff since you made some great points.
Yeah, before the video was started, we talked about Florida, and I feel like some people would be like, well, they shouldn't have even made it last year. Yes, they should have. They had the most points in the NHL the year before last, and last year they had to be good. So I don't understand why people were saying that they shouldn't have made it. I know they were an 8 seed. I know they beat the best team ever, regular season wise, but they are still held up to a high standard because of the players they have, because of the success they've had in the regular season 2 years ago and the playoffs last year. There is no thing but up.
Exactly. And Huberdeau was amazing in that year when they were the best team in the league. And you trade him for Kachuk, which worked. We saw why it worked out in the playoffs, struggled in the regular season. But when you make a trade for Kachuk, it's saying we want to win the Stanley Cup. They made it to the Stanley Cup. But I think when you have the player, we're talking about McDavid, Kachuk, I think they view Kachuk as a guy that can dominate or be a star player. It's just what you've made it, so why can't you go win it? Goaltending is an issue. I think they're trying to fix it with everything they can. So, yeah, I think to me it's the major Kachuk trade. They didn't give up future picks. They gave up a key piece of that team, Jonathan Huberdeau, who was, I think, top 5 in points that year.
Yeah, I think he was second behind.
Okay,
McDavid.
may have been second.
I will. I know he had the most assists by a right wing or a left wing. By a left wing, I'll check. Was it a left wing?
Maybe. But yeah,
Yeah, the most
you're
assists by a
giving
left
up-
wing in a very long time.
Yeah, you're giving up a player like that for someone else where the difference could be shown in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, he
Or
was second in
Kachuk.
points. He was
Okay.
second in points behind McDavid.
Yeah, so I think to me that just strengthens the point. They're trying to win the Stanley Cup, especially with that Kachuk trade, and they'll do something. I'm sure another thing. What were you want to say?
I mean, yeah, most assists in the league that year for Huberdeau, and when you're trading away a player like that, you expect a lot in return. So, like you said, if they don't win a cup or don't go to the Stanley Cup final, it will be very, very, very disappointing.
Yeah. And now it's the 5th team who's made appearances on here before, but it's different this time. And last year, I don't know if they were on our list last year, but the Dallas Stars, to me, this is a critical year for them. Last year, I think, was just a fun year. Wish they could have gotten it done, but I'm not destroyed. This year, it just seems like all the pieces are there. Defensively, I think they'll get better with 1 year. and they'll do just enough. But to me, it's this offense. You have Pavelski, Rupe, Robertson, who had a franchise record year. Rupe, who I think's getting love as he deserves. Then, of course, Pavelski. I think Pavelski is the main reason they're on this list because you have Rupe, Jason Robertson, Miro. These are all young players. The main reason is Pavelski. Sagan and Ben are great. And the Stars, of course, have Wyatt Johnson, who I think is going to be better. Sagan and Ben are great, but they're not key to the success that Pavelski is to this Dallas Stars team.
Yeah, Sagan really struggled after he was not on the top line during the playoffs, and he only had 50 points this past year, which is not up to the contract that he's been playing. Ben and Sagan are key to this team when it comes to success. Ben played well last year in the regular season, but then in the postseason, he kind of took that all away based on his decision making. But it's just the age of Sagan and Ben and Pavelski is why we have them on this list. It's not often that you get to mesh your young talent with your old talent at equal production levels. And the fact that Pavelski was third on the team in points last year, I believe. Third on the team in points. It was Robertson and then Ben and then Pavelski and then Hintz and then Miro, all above 73 points. But in the regular season, the postseason, I should say, the top three were all on one line. And it was Rupe, Robertson, and Pavelski. Pavelski had 14 points in 14 games. That's a point per game. He was the only other player on the Stars who did that was Roope Hintz. And that player, again, Pavelski, you can't expect that forever. And if you lose Pavelski, if he does fall off at all, it really does stunt the girls because that Pavelski and Suns line the past 2 seasons, or at least last year for sure, was the best line in hockey. We will eventually talk about the top lines in the sport, but I don't think we're going to disagree with the best line in hockey because of how productive they were in the playoffs and in the regular season.
Yeah, it's insane. And yeah, I love Sagan and Ben, but the contracts are just they're not living up to it. But the thing about if they weren't on this, I'd feel so great because and you do make a great point. They're meshing perfectly. Wyatt Johnson with the Ben line with Ben is going to be incredible. They also re-signed Donov. And then getting Matty Duchene, I think that's a key part of this. He's not going to be here next year.
100%.
He's
100%.
He's getting a huge payday. So
probably
this is such a great depth line. To me, Sagan's a third line guy. I don't know how the fourth line does, but that would be pretty good. And defensively, I think the Stars make a trade, but overall, I think they trust in it, and they should make the Stanley Cup. We were talking about the Oilers losing 2 past years. The last 5 years, the Stars have lost to the Stanley Cup champion 3 times. You have Vegas this past year. You have the Stanley Cup final when they lost to Tampa, and then you have the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and if it's not this year, when is it? Really is I think a very, very good question.
It'd be set back 2 or 3 years.
Pavelski was talking about retirement somewhat during the season, and then in January he said, "No, I'm coming back next year no matter what." There's no guarantee after that. Maybe he comes back. You know me, Kevin. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He, I guess, now is my favorite player since Patrice Bergeron retired. So it just, I want him to stay, but you can't stay at that level. And I do think there is something to going out at a peak it's still being productive instead of being that player that fell off. But Pavelski hasn't had that fall off. He still was remarkable. He still was the Stars, I believe, second best scorer in the postseason. I'll check if you go by goals. Yeah, it was
number 1 was probably Rupe because
it was Rupe, but Rupe only had 1 more goal in 5 more games. Yeah. So Pavelski's ability to score 9 goals in 14 games, can't even fathom it. The fact that he scored was it 7 goals against the Kraken?
No, Kraken. Yeah, Kraken. Yeah, it
Yeah.
might have been. Yeah, because you
Yeah,
got
it was
Fondo
7
there.
goals. No, it was 8 goals. It was
Eight.
8
Dang.
goals in one series.
It's insane.
He was, talk about a carry. Remarkable.
I'm on the search of a Pavelski poster. It's tough out there. I also want a Pavelski and Sons line poster because Robertson's probably my favorite player. And I think maybe I'm being over exact. Robertson struggled in the playoffs. I don't think that happens this year. I think he kind of
Yeah,
levels up. In the
that
playoffs.
experience I think will be good. This is the year. This is the
it's
year.
incredible, dude.
If
It's just defensively how do they do it? I love not Harley. I love Thomas Harley.
Harley's really good. I like Hanley
Yeah.
too. He's very underrated. The fact
Yeah,
that he
Hanley.
could be, he's
I don't
usually
know
the
if
seventh.
Hanley's on the team anymore. Who's the other guy?
I think he re-signed.
Who's the guy you liked? I believe we traded him. We were talking about in the playoffs. Why isn't this guy playing? Who's that?
Was it Hanley? No, Hanley's on the team. He's on the team.
Someone got traded to the Devils. I know that.
Oh, it was Colin Miller.
Colin Miller. I believe he is gone. He is on the
Yes,
Devils.
he is. He wasn't great in the playoffs, but he was still better than what Suter was providing in the conference finals, which was kind of my problem with it. But Suter's going to have to step up. He's getting paid double what Pavelski's getting paid, even though they're about the same age. And you expect a guy that's getting that much of that age to perform. He doesn't have to be a tremendous defenseman, but because defense is already an issue, he has to step up.
Yeah, I agree. And there are some amazing contrasts on this Stars team. So like the Rube deal, like the Robertson deal, like Ottinger. They also have Miro. Pavelski's a great one as well. Then you have some bad ones like the Suter deal. But yeah, this is the year it really all comes together. I think they'll do great. I hope they do. But yeah, that's all we got. Thank you for listening. Let us know if there's a team you want should be on this list or any other critiques of the teams on this list. This is a staple. And I love it I love having it as a staple. This is all we got. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.